Hello everyone, welcome to another Quad Education Test Prep Fundamentals video. My name is Tom, and today we're going to be taking a look at a topic from the SAT and the ACT that a lot of the time people aren't that great at. And the reason is, this is a kind of error that when you hear it in conversation, you may not actually realize that it's a mistake. But you should be sure that they will be testing this mistake and paying attention for it on the SAT and ACT. So without further ado, let's take a look at subject-verb agreement. First of all, let's define subject-verb agreement. So subject-verb agreement is the requirement in the English language that the plurality of the subject match the plurality of the verb. And so by plurality, I mean whether a subject or verb is singular, which is to say one of that, or plural, which is multiple. So in the context of a subject, the word she is singular and the word they is plural. Similarly, with a verb, the word is singular because you would say he or she is. And the word they, which goes with are, is plural. Singular and plural. English is kind of confusing because for regular non-pronoun nouns like I've just used there, ending in S usually means plural. By contrast, verbs ending in S means that they are singular. So the example here I have the dog runs versus the dogs run. It's kind of like this, there's only really one S to go between the subject and the verb here. And so when you want to indicate a change from singular to plural, this S kind of just gets borrowed from the verb and gets put in with the subject. Okay, that's it for the definition. So what we'll do now is go on ahead and look at some examples and see if we can't notice this in context. Okay, now take a second to pause the video and check through these example sentences. See if you can find any mistakes. Okay, did you find any? Hopefully so, because not one, not two, but all of these sentences contain a subject-verb agreement error. We'll start with the second sentence because I think that's the most obvious and where you can see it the most plainly. We see the school bus full of children have broken down. So in this case, we don't want to indicate that the children have broken down, like as if they were crying. Instead, we want to indicate that the school bus has broken down. So instead of saying have broken down, this should say has broken down because it's the school bus and not the children that have broken down. Now that I've pointed that out, consider going back and taking a look at the other sentences to see if you can't spot a similar mistake. Okay, taking a look at the first sentence, hopefully you notice that it's the team that is great and not the players. So this is a classic case of a collective noun where it's the team, which is singular because you can have the word teams, that's plural, that is the thing that we're saying is good or not. And the players are just what we call prepositional information about that subject. This here is singular. The same is true of the third example here with just a bit more prepositional information interrupting the subject, which is the group, and the verb, which is way down here with have. And so of researchers from the group of northern countries, all that is just prepositional information interrupting the subject and the verb. And so if we can tune that out, we can see pretty clearly that the subject is singular, and so the verb have should be instead has, because that would also be singular. With the fourth sentence, I actually put the verb before the subject, which is something that you are absolutely permitted to do in English. So in this sentence, the verb is are, and the subject is a series. And so again, a collective noun here, very confusing, especially because series ends with S, even though it's singular. And we know that it's singular because it is a series. It would be some series would be plural, but since it says it has to be singular because a can only indicate one. And so in this case, it's going to have to be is instead of are. And this final example, it's the inverse of the rule here, where up to this point I've been doing a plural construction when I should be doing singular. And in this case, it's the opposite because we're saying instead of milk that was lost, it is thousands of gallons. So thousands of gallons is certainly plural. So instead of was, we are going to need were. And so the issue here generally is that we have a subject and a verb in a sentence that are often far apart and placed so intentionally so as to confuse what the subject is. The way that you want to dial in on these subject-verb agreement questions is it will be just a single verb underlined in the sentence that you're correcting. So when you see that, be on your toes for whether or not it's a subject-verb agreement question. Okay, that's it for this video. Subject-verb agreement is one of those topics that the better you are at it on the test, the better you can be at it at real life. So make sure you listen for those subject-verb agreements in casual conversation so that you can practice for the test. We hope you found this material useful. If so, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to Quad Education. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.